guys once and for all how to use this pug mill. There's like 3 parts to the pug mill here. This is the nozzle that extrudes your clay, forces it down to the end. We have the mixing chamber right here, which can be accessed by this lever right here. Pull it up and you can examine how much clay is in there. And then you have the vacuum chamber, which has this cover on it that you don't want to take off when it's mixing, but if this fills up with clay, you need to take the clay out of there so it doesn't back up into the vacuum pump and clog up our vacuum. So right now we got a decent amount of clay in there. This can mix dry clay, wet clay, and water, but when you add water to it, you just want to add a little bit of water at a time. If you put too much water in there, we can't take the water out. We can always add a little more water into it. So push this down and clamp it. We turn on the pug mill with set on mix first. Okay, so it's mixing now. And we'll turn the vacuum pump on. This valve needs to be closed. Okay, so it's closed when it's at a right angle. And then you'll see the vacuum pressure going up. Sometimes it gets stuck. And Newbie's really good at leaning on this handle here to get it to seal down. There's a rubber gasket all the way around this, and it needs to seal up in order to let that vacuum pressure get up high enough. So I'm kind of pushing down on it. I like to push down on this because sometimes that clamp can get really tight for you guys to get it to seal right. So if you just sit on top of this for a little bit by pushing on it, then the vacuum pressure goes up. And it should continue to go up until it gets to about 28. All right. Some problems you might run into as you're doing this, you might be plugging clay and wondering why there's no clay coming out. It's because there's not enough clay in the mixing chamber, so you just add a little more clay. It could be wet clay from here, or it could be dry clay. If you use dry clay, make sure it's smaller than your fist, okay? You don't want to put a big blob of clay in there because the mixer takes too long to mix it up once it's in there. All right, so we're almost up to about 28. I'm just going to cheat a little bit for the purposes of making this video go smoothly. We'll leave the cap on, okay, and leave the air pressure or the vacuum pump on as you plug out, because it's sucking the air out continuously as you push it out. This little cutter should be cleaned off. Right there, it's a wire cutter, so that when you're ready to cut your clay off, it's clean. All right, so we're up to 27. I'm going to stop the pug mill and switch it to pug. Pug is push, so it's going to push the clay out the other end now. And we'll leave the vacuum pump going. It might take a little while to get the clay going the opposite direction and coming out. Be patient. All right, if it never does come out, then you need to add more clay into it. All right, so here comes the cap. Cap's coming off naturally. We don't need to kind of force it out there, and then hit stop when you've got enough clay and pull it off. So as long as that vacuum pump's on there, you got no air in your clay. Okay, do you guys have any questions about how to use this? It's okay, Nate, don't be shy. No questions? No. Okay, other problems you might run into that I've seen is like the vacuum pump not working. Because if I turn off the vacuum pump here and try to turn it back on again while it's still a lot of negative pressure, there's a piston in there that goes up and down, and if it's at an upstroke in the pressure in there, it's not going to turn back on, and it'll trip a reset button over here. So let's see. Yeah, see, it's not turning on right there, okay, because it's under pressure. But if we release the pressure, which is what you want to do after you turn the pump off, then you can turn that back on again. Okay, so it doesn't like to come back on when there's pressure in it. All right, so if it does reset, the reset button's on the side over here. All right, I'm going to continue to mix here. All right, Graham, go ahead.